Hi there, Salve, as we say in the Latin classroom. My name is Mr. Sweany, and it's very good to be with you here for a few minutes after our back to school video a few weeks ago. And I'm excited to share some more details with you about Latin 2 this year, what that's going to be like, what the experience is like for your students every day. And so we'll get going here. One of those experiences is a lot of switching back and forth from one screen to another, from video to slides. So I'm going to share my screen with you so you get a sense of what that is like, and then we'll get going. So again, welcome to Latin 2, and I am so excited. It's been really good to reconnect with all of our Latin students here this fall after a hectic spring and both long and short summer, and it's really been great to get going, and they've done such a great job so far in just a few weeks of being engaged and excited about being back to school. That's really meant a lot to me as a teacher, and it's made this weird beginning to a school year a little bit more normal and fun. So that's been good. I do want to run briefly through a little bit of my backstory and my interests in case you didn't make last year's open house. I've been studying Latin for quite a long time, going all the way back to high school myself, through then college and graduate school at the University of Texas at Austin. I loved living in Austin, Texas, especially those Texas winters, a lot better than Chicago. But I did eventually want to come back home to the place where I grew up and be a high school Latin teacher. This is my third year now at Lyons Township, and I am really loving our Latin community here and having this opportunity to teach our awesome students. It's really been a gift, and I'm enjoying it, and every day is better and better. So it's been a lot of fun. I had a busy spring and summer. I do love travel, and I've been missing travel. My goal of getting to 50 states, 50 countries, and 7 continents before I turn 50 is on pause for the time being, but that's okay. I've been able to read a lot of books. I love reading, and so my goal of 40 books before New Year's Eve this year is looking pretty good. My wife and I did welcome our first daughter in May, so that has slowed things down a little bit, right? But I think I'm okay with not hitting that goal if it means getting to spend some more time with my daughter. We've really been enjoying our time with her. And like I said, I've actually really been enjoying getting back to teaching and getting back to the school year with our students. So that's really been nice here the last couple weeks. Let's talk about Latin 2, how it's different than Latin 1, how it fits into our Latin program, our 4 years of study that we offer here at LT. Latin 1 was very much foundational. We were laying the foundations for our language study of Latin. This year, in Latin 2, the big goal is to prepare to read authentic, unadapted Latin literature next year when our students are in Latin 3. So we do a lot of the same things that we did in Latin 1. We learn more vocabulary, somewhere in the range of 600 to 800 words, depending on how much we get through this year. Morphology, how do we make those words, is a bigger emphasis, especially with verbs this year. You might have heard your student talking a lot about Latin verbs already because we are getting into it heavily, and that's going to continue throughout the entire year. And then the third piece is the syntax. How do we use these words? How do we put them together to form a coherent sentence? Latin 2 features a much deeper dive into that syntax to examine more complex ways of expressing ourselves in the Latin language. How do we understand those? We still have a large emphasis and focus on Greek and Roman history and mythology and culture, just like we did last year. And again, the goal is to go a little deeper. So we have chances to examine things in more depth, in more specificity, and also we have opportunities for students to explore areas of their own interest this year as we progress and learn some things about, for example, what Roman life was like. What was a Roman dinner party like? What was it like going to a Roman bath complex? So we'll have some fun with a lot of that this year, both remotely and hopefully in person at some point down the road. Our essential skills, which I'll talk about more in just a second, are still the same, but we are really starting to build towards applying those skills in level 3 and then level 4 after that. So our current Latin 2 students next year at North Campus will study Latin poetry. So that's our alternating sequence of poetry and then prose, which our Latin 2s will study in their 4th year of study. Like I've said before, the goal of those 2 years is to give our students exposure to a wide range of Latin authors and literary styles, again, unadapted, authentic Latin written 2,000 years ago, and to apply those skills in a way to understand the texts and hopefully someday when they get to a university or college, be able to take a language placement exam and do what they want with their Latin study, whether that's test out of language study or maybe test into a more advanced level of Latin at the collegiate level. So our students are well on their way to being able to do that because we really have a great group of Latin 2 students. Those skills that I mentioned are the same across all 4 levels of Latin. We are looking to first read and then comprehend, next translate, and then finally analyze this piece of Latin text that we are working through. So the text that we read this year in our textbook is more complicated. It's more aligned with what actual Latin text will look like. And we will build in more and more of that 4th analysis piece this year, because that's one of the more important skills at the Latin 3 and Latin 4 level. So students, I think, will enjoy getting to do that a little bit more this year. The benefits of studying Latin are still the same. Those transferable skills still apply with improved vocabulary and critical thinking and further increases in verbal and written communication. So those benefits are still there and even more developed, if anything, this year as we get into more complex study of how the Latin language works. Obviously, this start to the school year is very different for all of us. I have been so impressed with how our students have adapted to that so far. They've really done a good job of engaging and staying positive with it, which has been great because it was a tough spring. A lot of the feedback I got from our students in the spring was that there was some anxiety about the material that we learned, and they didn't feel as confident about that versus what we did in person last school year. So I've taken that into account in building our class this year. We are incorporating even more review than we ever would at the start of Latin 2. And there's also been an increased and will continue to be an increased emphasis on composition in Latin. So writing sentences, simple sentences in Latin to apply that morphology and syntax that both we learned last year and will continue to learn this year. That is a fantastic way of increasing your fluency and your capacity with Latin. So the goal is that with more Latin composition this year, we will get our students back to a point where they feel confident and comfortable with what they're doing. We're also going to employ a flipped classroom approach this year where students have time on their own, a self-paced approach to developing and acquiring new content, and that gives them a lot of opportunity for practice on their own pace and at their own time. That allows us to use our live class sessions to practice implementing those skills. We will do that as a whole class on Zoom, but we will also spend quite a lot of time in Zoom breakout rooms, both in small groups as well as putting students into a breakout room just on their own. What this allows me to do as the instructor is go into these different breakout rooms and help students in smaller groups by answering their questions, checking their progress, and giving them sometimes some gentle reminders that, that they are doing a great job and that they are good at Latin. Already, it's been great to have the opportunity to work with students one-on-one in those individual rooms to develop connections and rapport and answer their questions that maybe they're a little reluctant to ask in a bigger Zoom session when they're just looking at a bunch of tiles on a screen. Our Lion Days on Mondays are going to be used a lot for Latin connections, which we continue from last year, giving students the ability to bring in connections from Latin that they've seen in the world outside the Latin classroom. Heavy emphasis on Roman culture on those days, but also our community building and our team building through things like vocabulary review and Quizlet Live. I think will give us a chance to continue to develop those connections that we did last year in the physical Latin classroom, to give us a chance to do that remotely and to do that digitally. So it's a lot and it's a challenge, but again, I really want to stress how impressed I have been already thus far with how our Latin 2 students have been adapting and doing a great job with remote learning. It's not easy, but they're acquitting themselves very well. Latin Club is still something that we are going to continue this fall. We are working on plans to do that in a digital and remote format for the time being, and I hope to be able to communicate that through Canvas to you very soon. So we had a great group of Latin 2s involved in our Latin Club last year, and I would encourage all of our students to give it a shot this year and reconnect with their friends and have a little fun outside of class time. So That's it in a nutshell. I really encourage you to become an observer on Canvas so you can access all of our course materials. Things like the syllabus and grading expectations are there. And that gives you a really good sense of what the day-to-day experience in Latin class is like for your students. So I would really encourage you to do that. You're also welcome to email me at any time. And with any questions or concerns, I look forward to hearing from you. I hope to seeing you in person sometime soon. And again, I thank you for your time. So, Wale, as we say in Latin, take care.